Elsewhere, Russia has bombarded Ukraine with major airstrikes for the second time in 3 days. Ukrainian officials say 34 people were wounded, with air raid sirens ringing out across the country, including in the capital, Kyiv. Well, joining me now is our security and defence analyst, Professor Michael Clarke. Michael, what do we know then about these strikes?
Well, this is the 16th strike since last October. Not such a big one. There were 18 cruise missiles launched from aircraft flying within the Russian airspace, and the Ukrainians say that they shot down 15 of them, which is plausible, but they certainly did some damage. And there was a smaller airstrike a couple of days ago that killed some people. Today, about 30-odd injured, and a big hit at Pavlograd, which the Russians have claimed and which the Ukrainians are confirming. And the point about it is that the Russians say that they hit an ammunition dump near the railway yard there, and the Ukrainians say, well, it was a chemical factory, which is quite nearby. Certainly, it's not a straightforward explosion from this bit of film that we've got, because you can see the secondary explosions going off, which is consistent either with some ammunition or with maybe chemicals and fuel that may have been being used at the chemical plant. So either is plausible. But undoubtedly, the Russians think that they are targeting the basis of the Ukrainian war effort for the offensive, which the Ukrainians are waiting to launch sometime in the next few weeks.
And what does this tell us then about Ukraine's air defences?
Well, they're quite good, but they're probably going to start running out of missiles if they're not careful. I mean, they use the S-300 at the moment, which is the old Soviet system, but they're using about 200 missiles a month. And so they're going to run short of the ammunition for that. Now, they're getting these things, Patriot batteries. These are in Poland at the moment, these particular ones, and it will take some time for them to be deployed because they require a lot of training and they're very expensive. And these will shoot down anything. But equally, the Ukrainians won't want to use very expensive Patriot missiles against a cheap drone and so on. And the Russians, I think, have a strategy of attacking the Ukrainians to make them use up as much ammunition as possible, because they know that Ukrainian ammunition is, if anything, more limited than Russian ammunition is, even with the shortages that sanctions have created.
Now, we've also been talking about Sudan. We've seen the situation unfolding there, and we know that there have been some ceasefires, very fragile. From your perspective, what are the chances of this current ceasefire that's in place holding?
Yes, well, we're into the fourth ceasefire now, and there may be more, but the inherent situation in Sudan is not very favourable, because the Wagner Group, who are active, of course, in Russia, the mercenary group that work for the Kremlin, they're very active in Libya. And they're working with Haftar, who is the breakaway general in Libya, and they're working with him, and they have some power in the border between Libya and Sudan. They're very active in Chad, and again, they're offering the RSF, the rebel of the two groups, the two military groups that are fighting. They're offering them weapons, maybe through Chad. They're very strong, the Wagner Group, in the Central African Republic. And one of the things that they're very interested in, Darfur, this whole area of Darfur, which 20 years ago was the scene of a genocidal civil war. There's a lot of gold in Darfur, a lot of gold mines. And the Wagner Group would love to get their hands through the RSF, through their client, on some of the rights to those gold mines. Already they have companies that put their money into the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. They've got lots of interest there. And so there's a lot of Gulf interest in what goes on. The Saudis are trying to calm the whole thing down. The United Arab Emirates have a stake with the RSF, one of the two generals who are fighting. So it doesn't look very good, because the Sudan is the centre of a lot of regional instability. One of the most useful areas might be south of this map, Kenya. The Kenyan president, Ruto, the new Kenyan president, would love to be a mediator, is trying to mediate, and the Kenyans might have some influence with the Saudis in trying to hold this thing together, but it will be difficult. And it's really it's a competition between two military generals. I mean, we know that the next ruler of Sudan is going to be a brutal military dictator, and they're competing between themselves. The Hemeti and Burhan are competing as to who shall be that brutal military dictator. It'll be one or the other. If it's Hemeti, then the Wagner Group will have a hold on Sudan that will be very bad. If it's this man, it won't be very pleasant, but it's probably a bit more capable of being damped down by the community. But we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks.